What's good, you guys? Thanks for tuning in. This is Goldinumbeats. Welcome back to another video, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can mix using presets by Goldinumbeats. So I recently released this insane bundle pack called Goldinum's Everything Bundle, and this pack is loaded with presets for vocal mixing, beat mixing, audio mastering, MIDI files, FLPs, FLP drum loops, and so much more. And for this video, I'm going to use Goldinum's Everything Bundle. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. So first I'm going to start with drum mixing. So the first step is drum editing. So during drum editing, you need to get rid of some drum bleeding. A lot of processed drum samples might have effects like reverb or delay, etc. So you might want to clean up your drum sample so that you can have a nice and clean incoming signal. So I basically do everything on the sampler. So the only two parameters I'm working with basically on the sampler is the out, which is the quick fade out parameter, and of course the length depending on the length of the sample. So let's listen to the sample. Alright, so this sample have like the, reverb applied to it. So when I turn up the quick fade out parameter, you'll be able to hear how it cleans up the sample. Right, and it will sound much cleaner. So this is what the original sample sounded like, and this is what the edited sample sounds like, and that sounds much cleaner. Alright, so I basically do this with all my drum samples. Let's take another sample. So let's turn up the quick fade up parameter and turn down the length until the sample sounds nice and clean. Let's give it a little boost. So let's take sample 2, and this is what the sample sounded like, or this is what the original sample sounds like, and this is what the edited sample sounds like. Much cleaner. So during this stage I make sure my drum sounds nice and clean so I can have a clean incoming signal, because during the mixing stage I like to apply my own source to the sample, and I don't want to apply like reverb onto a reverb or a drum sample that have reverb already applied to it. So that's basically the first step. So step 2 is to set the input gain. So during this stage you need to open up your mixer and use the dB meter on your master channel to analyze the signal. So you have to make sure that your drum sample or all drum samples peak at -12 dB, because the preset was created using an input signal or input gain of -12 dB. So for the preset to work at its best, you need to make sure you have the correct incoming signal. So let's start with the kick. So if you want to set the input gain for your drum samples, you can use the channel volume. -12 dB. Alright, so let's go to the clap. Turn it to -12 dB. And one more thing you can do, let's use a different sample. Let's see. Let's use this one. And one more thing you can do is to rebalance the sample using the channel panning, because a lot of processed samples might be panned to the left or panned to the right. So you can rebalance the sample and do the panning to taste during the mixing stage. So let's turn this a little bit to the right, so that you can have a more balanced incoming signal. So now you can set it to -12 dB. So you have to do that with all your drum samples. Step 1 was editing, to make sure your drum sample sounds nice and clean, so that you can have a clean incoming signal, so that you can apply your own source to that signal during the mixing stage. Step 2 was to set the input gain. So step 3 is color coding. So first I'm gonna color code my drum samples. So I'm gonna left click and hold and move my mouse cursor down to select my drums. So now you can use the shortcut Alt, Shift and C in the gradient editor will then open up. Or you can simply just go to the channel options, go to color selected and select gradient. So now you can color your drums. So now we're gonna route the drums to the mixer. So on the mixer, you can select any mixer track as a starting point, and these selected channels will then be routed from that starting point in this order. So if you want to rearrange the channels on your channel rack, you can just press and hold shift and use the scroll button to move the channels up and down like this. And then you can select the channels and route them to the mixer. So I'm going to use mixer track 1 as a starting point, and then I'm going to use the shortcut Control Shift and L, and will then be routed to the mixer. So now the incoming signal of every drum sample peak at minus 12 dB. So now that everything peaked at minus 12 dB, it's time to create a drum bass. So you can use any empty mixer track. So in this case I'm going to use insert 10, and then I'm going to press and hold Control, left click on my mouse, and just move my mouse cursor to the right to select all mixer tracks. And then I'm gonna go to the send arrow, right click on it, and select route to this track only. So let's rename this drum bass. Let's give it like a color as well. And separate it. So when you route your mixer tracks to a drum bass, it will be removed from the master channel and will go through the drum bass first and then back to the master channel. So your drum bass basically is your final chance to make sure your drum sounds absolutely amazing. So now you can start inserting the presets. So let's open up Goldinum's Everything bundle. So we're gonna go to a beat mixing presets bundle, and we're gonna start with the kicks. Let's use preset 1. That sounds nice, but let's listen to some other presets as well. Alright, so I'm gonna use this one. So make sure that the final output level of your kick peak at minus 12 dB for the drum bass presets to work at its best. So let's go to the clap. Let's drag and drop some presets onto the clap as well. So let's start with number 4. Let's see what number 4 sounds like. So now my drums is mixed using presets by Goldinum Beats, right? So what I did was to export the drum loop back into FL Studio, and I exported the unprocessed version and the processed version just so we can do some comparisons, right? So this is what the unprocessed version sounds like. And this is what the mixed version sounds like. And that sounds absolutely amazing. So let's add a melody to this drum loop. I inserted Keysome Classic, which is a free plugin, and I'm gonna open up Goldinum's Everything bundle and go to MIDI pack, and then I'm going to insert a nice chord progression for the piano. So let's see which chord progressions I can use. Let me just randomly insert a chord progression. same with your instruments by setting the input gain to peak at -12 dB. But first I'm going to route it to the mixer, and I'm going to use mix track 11, and I'm going to press Ctrl and L, and it will then be routed to the mixer. So now I'm going to use the dB meter to analyze the signal and set the input gain for the piano to peak at -12 dB. Now that the peak at -12 dB, you can open up Goldinum's Everything bundle, go to beat mixing presets, piano, and use one of these presets. Let's see which one will work for this piano. Let's start with bring out clarity. Alright, one more thing. Let's open up Keyzone. On my instrument plugins, I like to remove effects like reverb, delays, and stuff like that. Like I said, just to apply my own source to that instrument or to the drum sample. Let's use a kind of effect. Let's use the reverse effect. Let's take a listen to it. Let's use a different preset. So there's a lot of presets for piano you can use to enhance the piano and also give it some flavor. So let's change the instrument and use a guitar. So I'm gonna use flex, and then I'm gonna use the steel guitar. I'm gonna select all, then I go to the search tab and search or type in guitar, and I'm gonna use the steel guitar. Right, so like I said, I like to get rid of effects like delay and reverb so that I can have the clean sound. So first, let me reset the channel or the mixer track. Right, so now I'm gonna set the input gain for the steel guitar first to peak at -12 dB. The guitar peak at -12 dB, I'm gonna insert or drag and drop some of these presets. So let's take a listen to it. Sounds really great. So usually I would route my instruments to a bus as well, and then I will use Sidechain Dynamic EQ, right? So what I will basically do is to sidechain my drum bus to the instrument bus and use Sidechain Dynamic EQing, where I will use the frequency of my drum bus to carve the frequency of the melodies or the instruments to make space for my drums, just to make sure my drum stays up front in the mix. On your guitar track, insert space maker. So let me go to my picture presets. Mixing and mastering patches. So I'm gonna insert space maker version 2.0, which is my latest picture preset or my updated picture preset. And what I did with this pitch was just to insert a low shelf and a high shelf as well, because this was a 3-band peaking filter Sidechain Dynamic EQ. So before you can use Space Maker, you need to sidechain your drum bus to your instrument bus, but in this case I'm going to sidechain it to the guitar. So I'm going to right click on the send arrow and select sidechain to this track. Right, so now I need to click on map, and this is going to be my sidechain signal. So now you need to right click on from FL Studio, outputs, audio, and select drum bus and link the drum bus to the sidechain signal. Right, so now you can go back to servers. Let me just open up the main EQ as well. So now I can go back to surface, right? So let me just turn up the reduction level. That sounds absolutely amazing, and this is a great technique to make sure your drum stays up front in your mix. And what you also can do is to use Spacemaker as a dynamic EQ. So all you need to do is to use the same signal or a duplicate of the same signal and just link it to the sidechain signal. And you will basically have a dynamic EQ. There's a lot of great tools available in Goldinum's Everything bundle you can use to enhance your mixes, right? So that's all for now. I hope you find this helpful, and I hope this will help you improve your mixes. This is Goldinum Beats. Thanks for watching. God bless.